Now, it's one of the questions of our time and an issue which has at times proven to be more divisive than just about any other. The debate over trans rights, broadly put, how easy or not it should be for people to self-define their gender, has been markedly toxic and angry. Now, a creator of one of the country's most famous sitcoms says his outspoken views on the issue have cost him work.
Drink! 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 Drink!
With its flawed Catholic priests, when it first aired in 1995 poking fun at the church, Father Ted was pretty risque. His creator, Graham Linehan, now finds himself at the centre of a bigger storm. He says what he thinks on trans issues, saying he's sticking up for women and people being exploited by trans activists, but he's been called an out-and-out transphobe. With 600,000 followers on Twitter, his words carry, but he blames what he calls radical trans rights activists for creating a stink of bigotry around him, a stink he says has cost him work. A government consultation 2 years ago on whether the Gender Recognition Act should be reformed has seen the debate around the issue intensify. Under that act, trans people wanting to change their gender identity have to fulfil criteria including a medical diagnosis of gender dysphoria. That's a person's belief that the gender they're assigned at birth is different to the one they identify with. They also have to have a report from a medical professional and proof of 2 years living in an acquired gender. There's a statutory declaration to live in the acquired gender until death. Spousal consent is required for those who are married, and there's a £140 fee too, and a panel who'll review the documents. Some believe the law should be reformed to allow people to be able to self-identify without medical evidence. Others fear predators could abuse any such reforms to gain access to places like female changing rooms. Father Ted never got into trans issues, but Graham Linehan did in an episode of the IT Crowd.
It bothers you that I used to be a man?
No! I love that you used to be a man. It's your thing. I love thinking about that operation that you had.
Critics claim the episode was transphobic. He said of that criticism, a transphobic character is not a transphobic episode. Learn the difference. Well, Graham Linehan is with me now. You wrote a piece in the papers at the weekend. You say you've been vilified on social media and that you've even lost work as a result of speaking out in this trans debate. Why have you got yourself mired in this? You're not a trans person, you're not a woman. Why have you made this your issue?
Well, the main reason is that women can't speak about this. Women like... I'll admit, I'm not a great person to be in this conversation. I'm a comedy writer, and I am very blunt. But the thing is, there's a lot of women, like Kathleen Stock, Jane Clare Jones, academics who are very compassionate, but they protect their boundaries and the boundaries of young lesbians and women in general. And they do so in a very respectful, quiet way. But whenever they're asked to speak, there's protests, they get shut down. Kathleen Stock had a Freedom of Information request about her emails. You know, it's insane, the abuse and harassment they face. So I thought I'd step in and, you know, I don't have a boss as such.
Yeah, but has stepping in made the debate any better? I mean, a lot of people say that the language you've used, some of the dismissive terms that you've bandied about have actually increased the toxicity of this debate.
Can you give me an example?
Yes, you can. Yeah, I'll give you several if you want. So, what about comparing people in the trans debate to speaking out against Nazis? I mean, that's pretty extreme.
Well, there's a couple of parallels. One is that at the moment, children are basically being experimented on with puberty blockers. For instance...
Oh, come on. You're not seriously trying to say that children going to the doctor and saying that they're worried about their gender is akin to children being experimented on in Nazi concentration camps?
I'm afraid I am, because Lupron, which is a drug that's supposed to be meant for end-stage cancer prostate cancer treatment, is being given to young girls. It has never been tested on girls. It has never been tested on women. That's happening to young women at the moment.
Look, there's a couple of issues here. One of them is that these are doctors who are doing this, and you don't have any medical training to know about this. But the other is that they are doing it by choice. It is deeply offensive to compare this to Nazi concentration camps.
Oh, no, don't get me wrong. I'm not comparing it to Nazi concentration camps. And also...
Well, that's basically what you said, was that experimenting on children is what the Nazis did and what doctors are doing today.
Well, essentially, if you look at the Tavistock, 35 psychologists have quit the Tavistock in 3 years. Does that sound...
That's one of the centres which deals specifically with people who think that they want to change their gender.
Yes, that's 35 over 3 years. Do you think that sounds like a healthy environment for children?
I've no idea what the reason why people might be leaving are, but
35 psychologists.
Children being able to come forward and talk about issues that they feel, it's entirely up to them whether or not they want to do that. Nobody's forcing anybody into anything.
I'm sorry.
Here.
You don't tell children that they were born in the wrong body, because they're children and they will believe you. That's the... These are... I've seen kids... there are reports from the Tavistock that children as young as 4 were brought in. These are children... You know, children are still believing in Santa when they're 10. You know, it's ridiculous, it's absurd, and what surprises me...
Why do you think... I mean, what evidence do you have that young children are being told they are born into the wrong body? Just because we're having a debate about self-identification doesn't mean that young children who still believe in Santa are being told that they have to change their gender. That's ridiculous exaggeration.
No, that's not true. Well, one of the other things that Tavistock whistleblowers reported was that homophobic parents were bringing in their gender non-conforming kids and telling them to fix them, you know? There was a dark joke that went around the Tavistock where they said that in a couple of years there'll be no gay people left, you know? Now, that's why I compare it to eugenics programs and things like that. It is extremely serious. And all I'm asking for is that people like me and the women that I support are not attacked, their meetings aren't protested, they aren't abused on Twitter. I've been sued, I've been reported to the police.
I know you have.
My wife's address has been published online. All these things have happened because I'm trying to make the conversation less toxic.
Right, talking about eugenics and comparing trans activists to Nazis is not going to make this debate less toxic. What you're doing is fanning the flames. You're throwing fuel on this.
Trans activists threaten the feminists I support with rape and death threats, OK? So the idea that there's an equivalence between these two, I am absolutely happy to step out of this conversation completely once women like Kathleen Stock and Jane Clare Jones are allowed to speak.
It might be quite a lot of women think that they can speak for themselves, thank you, and they don't necessarily need Graham Linehan to come in and talk for us.
Well, the women I support value my support and are glad that I'm amplifying their voices.
And amplifying the toxicity of a debate when you come in here and use this kind of inflammatory language.
These women are not toxic. These women are...
I'm not saying they are. I'm saying it's your comparisons tonight that are pretty toxic, coming in here and talking about Nazis. If you want to have a reasonable debate about what's going on with gender identity in this country, we can't talk about Nazis in the same breath.
The thing about the Nazi comment was what I was trying to get across was that this is a hinge moment in history, just like during the Nazis. And we always ask ourselves the same questions. We ask ourselves, what would I have done? Would I have bowed down? Would I have done everything I was told to do? Or would I have resisted? Would I have stood up, and would I have stood up alongside people who were trying to do the right thing? That's what I'm trying to do at the moment. And it's being made very, very difficult. Look, you know, 2 years ago, we wrote to Stonewall, way before I compared trans rights activists to Nazis, and we said, could we please bring down the toxicity of this conversation? Could we please just look at some of these issues, some of these points where women's rights conflict with trans rights, and just talk about it? And within the day, Stonewall said no. They said absolutely not.
So they said to us today, we invited them to come on the programme, and instead they gave us a statement saying trans people in Britain face huge levels of abuse in all areas of their life. They quote statistics showing that hate crimes against trans people have increased 37% in the last year, and say they're proud of their work towards trans equality.
Yes, but the reason hate crimes have increased is because everything is now transphobic, including saying statements like, men aren't women. These are considered transphobic statements. So the reason that these hate crime figures are going up is because the bar has been set so low for what is and isn't transphobic. There has to be a conversation about this. It is absolutely crucial. Children...
Okay. Well, that's all the time we have for this conversation tonight. I'm fairly confident it will continue on social media.
I'm sure it will.
Graham Linehan, thank you